Hello, and welcome to G Fun Facts Online, the show that dives deep into the questions of our everyday world. Today, we're tackling a mystery that millions of us face regularly. Have you ever stood on a bustling train platform, looked at your ticket, and just wondered why the price seems to have a mind of its own? One day a trip costs you a certain amount, and the next, maybe even for the same journey, it's a completely different story. You're not imagining it. This isn't random. The reasons behind these fluctuating fares are a fascinating journey into the world of economics, urban planning, and even a little bit of human psychology. So let's punch our ticket and figure out why your train fare is such a moving target. At its very core, a public transit system is a business, but it's a very special kind of business. It has what we call a dual mandate. On one hand, it has to provide an essential public service, making sure people can get to work, to school, to doctor's appointments. On the other hand, it has to try and cover its absolutely massive operational costs. And trust me, this is no easy balancing act. The costs of running a railway system are immense, and they come in a few different flavors. First, you have the fixed costs. These are the giant expenses that stay pretty much the same, whether there's one person on the train or 1,000. Think about the tracks themselves, the signals, the stations. They all need constant maintenance and repair to be safe and functional. This alone can eat up a huge chunk of the budget, sometimes as high as 25 to 40% of all operating expenses. Then there's the biggest cost of all for most systems: labor. We're talking about everyone, from the highly skilled engineers and conductors driving the trains, to the station staff selling you that ticket, to the massive crews working day and night on maintenance. These salaries and benefits can represent a staggering 30 to 60% of all the money a transit system spends. But we're not done. You have to add the cost of energy to power the trains, which is a massive electricity bill. You need insurance, and you have to pay fees for regulatory compliance to make sure everything is up to code. When you add all this up, you start to see the immense financial mountain that has to be climbed every single day, just to keep the trains running. On top of these steady, fixed costs, you also have variable costs. These are the expenses that go up and down with the level of service. The more trains you run, the more fuel and electricity you consume. Simple. There are also things like track access charges. In some systems, the company operating the trains has to pay a fee to the company that owns the tracks, and this fee is often based on the type of train to account for how much wear and tear it causes. So you might think, okay, I get it, it's expensive, so my ticket price is just all those costs divided by the number of passengers, right? Well, not even close. Here's a crucial fact. Passenger fares almost never cover the full cost of running the system. In the United States, for instance, fares typically cover anywhere from a dismal 10% to a more respectable 70% of operating costs. But even on the high end, there's a big gap. So who pays the rest? We do, through government subsidies. Local, state, and federal governments pump money into public transit because they recognize it as a vital public good. The benefits of a good transit system extend far beyond the individual rider. It helps reduce traffic congestion for everyone. It provides essential mobility for people who can't afford or are unable to drive a car, and it contributes to a cleaner environment by getting cars off the road. That subsidy is an investment in a healthier, more functional city. Now, this brings us to one of the biggest and most noticeable factors influencing your ticket price: the time of day you travel. This is all thanks to a strategy called peak and off-peak pricing. Every transit system experiences huge surges in demand during the morning and evening rush hours, as millions of people commute to and from work. To manage this tidal wave of humanity, transit authorities charge higher fares during these peak times. This strategy is clever because it serves two main purposes. First, it helps to spread demand more evenly throughout the day. By offering cheaper fares during the less busy or off-peak times, the system encourages people with flexible schedules to travel when there's more space. Maybe you can run your errands mid-morning instead of at 5:30 p.m. This helps reduce that awful overcrowding during peak hours, which makes the ride more comfortable and efficient for everyone. Second, and this goes back to our discussion of costs, peak pricing reflects the higher cost of providing service during these busy times. To handle that influx of passengers, transit systems have to run more trains, more frequently. This means more energy use, more wear and tear, and more staff on the clock. So the higher fares during peak periods help to directly offset these additional expenses. You see this all over the world. In London, peak fares on the tube and other rail services apply during weekday mornings from 6:30 to 9:30 a.m. and evenings from 4 o'clock to 7 p.m. In New York, the Long Island Railroad and Metro North have higher fares for trains arriving in the city during the morning rush and leaving during the evening rush. It's a direct economic signal to manage the natural ebb and flow of a city's population. But what if we could get even smarter than just having 2 or 3 set price periods? This leads us to the next evolution in fare setting: dynamic pricing. If peak pricing is like a light switch that's either on or off, dynamic pricing is like a dimmer switch that can adjust the price in real time, based on a whole bunch of factors. This is the exact same principle that airlines and ride-sharing apps use. You know how the price of a flight to a popular destination skyrockets during a holiday week? Or how an Uber costs more right after a concert lets out? That's dynamic pricing in action. In public transit, this would use real-time data on passenger numbers, traffic conditions on the roads, and even special events to adjust fares on the fly. Let's paint a picture. Imagine a major football game is happening. A transit agency using dynamic pricing could automatically increase fares on the train and bus routes that serve the stadium to manage that predictable surge in demand. Conversely, on a slow Tuesday afternoon when platforms are empty, the system could lower fares to attract more riders and fill those empty seats. This approach allows transit agencies to be much more responsive to the constantly changing pulse of the city. It helps them optimize both revenue and efficiency, making sure the system is used as effectively as possible. Now, this isn't yet widespread in your traditional subway or city bus systems, but the concept is definitely gaining traction. Some intercity railway services have already started to experiment with demand-based pricing, where the first batch of tickets for a particular train are sold cheaply, and as the train fills up, the price for the remaining seats goes up. The goal is always the same: maximize both ridership and revenue by filling as many seats as possible at the best possible price. Beyond the time of day and real-time demand, there are several other factors that go into that final fare equation. One of the most basic is distance and zones. Many transit systems use either a zone-based or a distance-based fare structure. The city is carved up into concentric rings or zones. The farther you travel, or the more zones you cross, the higher your fare will be. This is a pretty straightforward way of aligning the price you pay more closely with the service you're actually consuming. A longer journey uses more resources, so it costs more. The type of ticket you buy also makes a huge difference. A single ride ticket is almost always the most expensive way to travel on a per-trip basis. Transit agencies want to encourage loyalty and predictable revenue, so they offer discounts for buying multi-trip passes, a weekly pass, or a monthly subscription. These passes are a great deal for frequent riders, and they provide a stable, predictable source of income for the transit agency, which helps them plan their budgets. We also have to remember the public service part of public transit's mission. This is where concessions and discounts come in. Almost every transit system in the world offers reduced fares for certain groups, like students, senior citizens, and individuals with disabilities. These concessions are a key part of the social equity mission of public transit. They ensure that transportation remains affordable and accessible to all members of the community, regardless of their income or physical ability. And finally, the ultimate decider of fare structures is often government policy. The priorities of the local transit authority and the government that funds it play a huge role. Some cities might decide that their top priority is to encourage as many people as possible to use public transit to reduce car dependency and pollution. In that case, they'll keep fares low and make up the difference with higher government subsidies. Other cities might be more focused on cost recovery, trying to make the transit system as financially self-sufficient as possible. This approach will almost always lead to higher fares for riders. So what does the future hold? The way we pay for public transit is constantly evolving, driven by new technologies and our changing travel patterns. The widespread adoption of smart cards, like the Oyster card in London or the Metro card in New York, and now mobile payments on our phones, has made it so much easier to implement these more complex and flexible pricing models we've been talking about. Imagine a future where you don't even have to think about it. You just tap your phone or card, and the system automatically calculates the best possible price for you based on your personal travel patterns, applying any discounts or passes you have. Looking even further ahead, we see the rise of what's called mobility as a service, or MaaS. The idea here is to integrate all the different forms of transportation in a city: trains, buses, bike sharing, scooter rentals, and even ride-hailing services, into a single, seamless service, usually through one app. This could lead to entirely new pricing models, like a monthly subscription that gives you a certain number of train rides, a few hours of bike share, and a couple of discounted ride-hail trips, all bundled together. It's about creating personalized transportation plans that better reflect the incredibly diverse travel needs of people in a modern city. So, the next time you're on a platform and you tap your card or buy a ticket, take a moment to appreciate the incredible, complex web of economic forces, technological innovation, and public policy decisions that have all converged to create that single price. Your train fare is so much more than just a number. It's a reflection of the delicate, constant balancing act between running a massive, costly piece of infrastructure and providing a vital service that keeps our cities and our lives moving. Thanks for tuning in to Fun Facts Online. Join us next time as we explore another fascinating piece of our world. Until then, stay curious.